All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs. Welcome to Sharing More Than the Sheets, a podcast to help you and your partner make better financial and lifestyle decisions so that you can both focus on the things that you love. I'm your host, Michael Khouri, financial planner, green thumb, husband, and just dad. This segment is called Michael's Magic Moment. It's my opportunity to play a little snippet from one of our previous episodes, which resonated with our listeners, that I received feedback from, or I felt really had an impact on some people's lives. Hope you enjoy it. This week, we go back to an episode that I did a few years ago on consistency and the power of consistency. This is something that I can relate to from my high school days. I could relate to it from today and what I do on a regular basis. But just the power of consistency, the fact that it's many people do not. I have lots of people that ask me, what's the trick or what's the golden rule to building wealth or to paying off debt or obviously money questions get hit at me a lot, but even from a health perspective when I'm talking to friends, and it always comes back to consistency. It's a big part of, it's a great trait to have, and it's of course a great practice to implement in a lot of what you do. And in this episode, I highlight a few benefits of consistency. I highlight some examples on how you can implement it into your daily lives to see better results. I hope you enjoy. Now, if we do something regularly and consistently, it affects us on a cellular level. And from there, it affects our subconscious. And then from there, it creates neural pathways in our brain, which allows us to get things done a lot easier or more efficiently, or when we want to do something, we're better at doing it. Now, sports players practice this regularly when they're practicing their training, and there's that consistency that creates certain habits and ways for a basketball player to dunk a ball, or the way for a soccer player to kick a ball. And from a financial perspective, there are some amazing benefits, and from a personal perspective, there are so many benefits. Now, for me at school, there was one sport that I was good at, and only one sport, and that was long distance running. And I did a lot of it, and I actually did really well at long distance running. And I learnt through long distance running, and I relate to that a lot with this topic and even my personal life and business life. But when you're running and doing long distance running, consistency is key. If you start off too fast, you're going to puff out and not be able to finish the race, and someone's most likely going to overtake you. If you go too slow, you're going to be left behind. So consistency is important in the way you breathe, the steps you take, your speed, every single thing you do. Of course, you obviously speed up at certain periods, especially towards the end of a race. But really, if we're talking about a 10-kilometer race, consistency is key. I've brought that into my personal life when it comes to business, to work, to anything that I do. It's just more of a habit. I've probably done it subconsciously without realizing. And maybe it's just the type of person that I am, but I always try to be consistent as much as I can. Now, from a financial perspective, I want to talk about the importance of consistency when it comes to investing. I was talking to a client the other day, and we were talking about investing and what I see people do well. We talked about things that I see people don't do well. And when we talked about the investors that I know that have investments, that have properties, that have share portfolios, that have things in place, have assets in place that they've built up over time, one of the most common traits is consistency. It's either whether somebody just purchased something and they held it, or whether they consistently invested a certain amount of money over a very long period of time into something, or whether it's they just had a strategy and they stuck to that strategy. And if there's anything I've learned from those types of people, is that they generally will end up doing a lot better than those that chop and change all the time, don't really have a strategy. They'll do a bit of this, they'll stop it, they'll do a bit of that. You can probably relate to this when it comes to health, going to the gym, doing any exercise. If you're consistent, you will see results. It may not be overnight, but you'll see results, compared to if you gymmed for a couple of months and then you stopped, and then you started running for a couple of months and then you stopped, and then you just took up swimming because you thought it was cool and then you stopped. And then you look back 6 months later, you're like, well, I look exactly the same. I feel exactly the same as I did when I started all this. Whereas if you had stuck to one thing in particular, or two or three, whatever it is, but if you had stuck to something in particular, or a system or a regime, and you were consistent in that approach and in the implementation of that, you will find that you most likely would be getting better results. Now, of course, the strategy has to change. If you start running and you have bad knees and you might switch to swimming or something different, just like when they're investing, you might invest into something in particular and find after a few months or 6 months later, it probably wasn't the best idea, or maybe the markets have changed, or tax rules have changed, or something has changed and you need to alter your strategy. That's different, because the purpose of a strategy is to review it regularly. And as an advisor, I review strategies regularly with my clients when we do annual reviews together, for example. But the idea is to have a consistent strategy or a plan or something. And from a financial perspective, you will most likely see benefits by following it. From a sports perspective, from a health perspective, you will most likely see food. Let's talk about food. If you eat healthy for a week, and then you have junk food for a week, and then you eat really healthy for a couple of months, and then you have junk food for a couple of months, it's sort of counteracting each other, isn't it? And or maybe it's, you probably won't feel any better by the end of it. Compared to if you sort of ate healthy-ish, you don't have to eat super healthy, but if you ate healthy-ish and had a bit of a balance in the way you eat your food, and if you did that for 6 months or a year, there's a high chance that you'll be healthier or feeling better, or you may have a lot more energy. The last thing is, from a personal perspective, even just organizing your life personally by having some sort of consistency, which you probably have at the moment and you don't realize, you'll find that your life will be a lot more efficient. As an example, when we wake up in the morning, what do? Most people brush their teeth, wash their face, get changed, have a coffee. There's consistency there. But then they walk into their office or their job, and sometimes if they're not organized, consistency's out the window. Half the day's finished. That person's not productive. They've had no structure in the way that they ran their day or what they did or anything like that. And they look back and they may potentially have some regrets. In your personal life, if there are certain things that you like to do, whether it's work, socializing, spending time with friends, spending time with family, whatever it may be, having some form of consistency will make it a lot easier for you to do the things that you want to do, instead of just doing things when the chance comes up or when the time comes up. And a big part of that could be diarizing, using a to-do list. With consistency comes accountability. And I've talked about accountability many times, but if you find that you're not really consistent, maybe find someone to be an accountability partner, whether it's a financial advisor or a friend or a family member or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a husband or a wife, whatever it may be. Find someone to hold you accountable to your consistency, to help you track your performance. Health-wise, you normally get a nutritionist. Fitness-wise, you probably get a personal trainer. Money-wise, you probably have a financial advisor. There's different people that can also help you with these things to hold you accountable, to make sure you are consistent so that you feel better, you do better, and you be better. Thanks for joining us on Sharing More Than the Sheets. Please make sure you subscribe to be updated with future episode releases, and feel free to share this episode with any friends or family that you think it might benefit. Please visit us at sharingmorethanthesheets.com.au to submit questions or requests for future podcast topics. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.